Rabbi Daniel Glatstein is Rav of Kehilas Tiferes Mordechai in Cedarhurst, New York, and one of the Jewish world's most popular speakers and respected Torah teachers. He's a published author of several series of Sfarim and numerous volumes of English Torah books published by ArtScroll. But what Rabbi Glatstein is probably most known for is his more than 10,000 recorded classes that have garnered literally millions of views on TorahAnytime.com and numerous other platforms. Today, Rabbi Glatstein and I talk about his goals for a drasha and how you can measure your success as a speaker and disseminator of Torah messages.
People speak to you about issues that bother them. That means they look at you as somebody who gets them and gets the Torah.
We discuss which kinds of stories are most effective and the kinds of stories that fall flat.
If the story had to happen because it's only impressive because it's some kind of miraculous tale, and if it didn't happen, it's meaningless, then it's meaningless.
Rabbi Glatstein also shares with us some of his pet peeves, like when speakers and teachers of Torah demonstrate a lack of regard for their audience by failing to put in the proper amount of preparation before their talk.
It says in the Sfarim HaKadoshim. What? Sfarim HaKadoshim? You didn't bother checking where? Which Sfarim HaKadoshim? You mean you saw it in Mishpacha magazine an hour ago? Those are your Sfarim HaKadoshim?
There are plenty of golden nuggets and pearls of public speaking wisdom contained in today's episode.
Is something that you're excited about, it's likely someone else will be excited about it as well.
It's so clear to me that Rabbi Glatstein takes the role and responsibility of speaking and teaching Torah very, very seriously.
How fortunate to be in a capacity to teach Torah, to share Torah with Klal Yisrael. It's really a great privilege.
I'm grateful for the time he took out of his busy schedule to talk with me, and I learned so much from our conversation. And I'm sure you will too. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with Rabbi Daniel Glatstein. You wear two hats, but you're a Rav and you give tons and tons of Shiurim. So
Right.
you're delivering drashas on a weekly basis, and you're also giving lots of Shiurim. What is the primary difference in the way that you approach a drasha versus the Shiurim that you're giving?
When I started in the Rabbanos, I think I would have said that a drasha is more formal. For a drasha, every word is measured, every word is prepared, even rehearsed perhaps, time allowing, and depending on the occasion. There's a certain formality to it. It's condensed. A drasha is, let's say, a Shabbos morning drasha would be 15 minutes, or a Shabbos Haggadah, Shabbos Shuvah, 45 minutes to an hour. And a shir is a bit more extemporaneous in the sense that I still give out source sheets for my shiurim, so there is always a certain formality to it, but maybe I myself am a little bit more natural. It's less prepared in terms of exactly how I'm going to present something, but I would say the essential principles of proper communication and proper presentation of Torah are similar.
And what are the goals for your drasha? You're putting a lot of effort into it, obviously, with measuring your words, rehearsing. What's the goal for you?
Okay, so it really depended on, and it depends on the particular rabbanos that you have. It depends on who your audience is. It depends on who your kehila is. So in my starting job, we'll call it, where I started in rabbanos, which was more of a classic pulpit-style synagogue, where people did not necessarily have yeshiva background, I would say the goal of the drasha was to convey fundamental values of Torah, fundamental ideals of Shmiras HaMitzvos. It could have been about the importance of keeping Shabbos. It could be about the importance of regular Torah study, the importance of tznios, the importance of tefillah, the importance of bein adam lachaveroi. So there I may be presenting very elementary type of ideas for somebody who has a yeshiva education, but for those who perhaps do not have the privilege of that, you want to present it in a impactful way, in a compelling way. I have never shied away from challenging my audience or speaking about things that maybe would make someone feel somewhat uncomfortable because, I don't necessarily do that. But I think with the right intention and the right relationship, then that's the responsibility of a teacher of Torah to share with the Jewish people their ancestral heritage. Then you could have, let's say, a kihila of people who do have a yeshiva education, and because of, let's say, the influence of society or community, sort of may get caught up in a different type of lifestyle. So they're also you want to present ideas that will re-anchor them in the values that perhaps they grew up with. So in a nutshell, I think the main objectives of a drasha are A, to educate, B, to inspire. I think that pretty much sums it up. I don't think we have to go beyond that. You want to inspire people, you want to educate people. You're not an entertainer. The job of the rabbi is not to entertain the people. Entertainment may be a tool or a method with which you are able to inspire and educate, but that's not the role. That's not the objective. Yes, if you get them to laugh or you get them to cry, then you have a better shot at opening up their heart and educating them and inspiring them in a meaningful way. But I wouldn't say the mark of a successful drasha is did they laugh or did they cry. The mark of a successful drasha, in my opinion, is more than just inspire and educate. Could they say it over? Could they go home and tell their wife, the rabbi said today, in a nutshell, in 2 minutes, this is what the rabbi said today. Because there are many speakers, they could be captivating, they could be engaged, they could be entertaining. And at 5 minutes later, you say that was great, but you have absolutely no idea what in the world what they said, because in fact they actually didn't say anything. So I think the greatest compliment, more than I was inspired or I was moved to tears, is I went home and I said it over. Because if they said it over, that means it was meaningful to them, and you effectively communicated it in a way where they not only heard, not only understood, but they themselves could say it over. I think that's the highest goal to strive for.
Yeah, that kind of leads into one of the questions that I wanted to ask you about is what are some of the ways that a speaker, someone who's a darshan or teaching Torah publicly can measure success?
There are many ways to measure success, and I think it sometimes is very difficult. It becomes challenging to rabbanim or rabbeim. Sometimes if someone is in the world of kirov, so then they could sort of say, well, I took someone who was not observant, and now they're Shomer Shabbos, or didn't keep this mitzvah, now they keep this mitzvah. But in sort of classic Rabbanos, sometimes it's a little bit, a person may feel disappointed, like, what exactly am I doing, or what am I supposed to do? I think a measure of whether you're being successful in Harbasas Torah is, do people tell you, Rabbi, I really appreciate what you said. I said it over to my friend. I shared it with somebody. I think another measure of success in terms of are you connecting with the people who you're teaching is if people come to speak with you about issues that bother them, because that means that you connected with them on a personal level. That means that what you're teaching them resonates with them deeply. And when they go home at night and they say to themselves, this is really bothering me, who would I feel comfortable speaking to about it? Somebody who maybe understands me and understands Torah, if they come to you. So that's a sign that you're doing your job in a profound way.
If people start opening up to you.
Yeah. Again, that's not the only measure of success. I'll tell you the truth. Very often, throughout my rabbinic career, very often people from other shuls will come to me with their issues. And I don't think in any way that reflects negatively of the Rav where they daven. Maybe sometimes it's very difficult to, look the rabbi in the rabbi that you daven in his shul, and he's the one who people are calling about shidduchim for your children. You don't necessarily feel comfortable opening up. Sometimes it's easier to open up to another rabbi or a different rabbi. But I think if people speak to you about issues that bother them, that means they look at you as somebody who gets them and gets the Torah.
So would you say that potentially that could be a goal of a drasha to build trust, to connect with the kehillah in front of you, even if some weeks may not remember everything you say, may not be able to repeat it over, but if you can use that opportunity to connect with them and to build trust as a leader.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a point of note. I would agree with that. If 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 you have a effective way of sharing a message with the tzibur through which you feel you could build that type of connection, yeah, that would be a very noble achievement.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you talk about success, one of the measures of success was to be able to someone could repeat it over, to give it over.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of things that what kind of ways do you structure a presentation in order so that people should be able to give it over?
You know, there's a famous netziv that Yitzchak and Rivka had a very unusual type of relationship where they both, you know, Yitzchak seemed to favor Esav and Rivka favored Yaakov Avinu. And we don't find they ever had this like heart-to-heart discussion, you know, where Rivka says, hey, you know, Yitzchak, I mean, how do you go for this kid? This kid is a murderer. Or Yitzchak asks Rivka, you know, why don't you appreciate? We don't find they ever really talked it out. And Rivka's like going behind his back, trying to. And then Tziv basically says that Rivka meets Yitzchak for the first time. She's a young girl, and Yitzchak is coming back from Mincha. He's already 40 years old, and her first encounter with him is this very awe-inspiring tzaddik coming back from prayer, and she's a little girl, and she literally faints and falls off her camel, and you know, you never have a second chance to make a first impression. So her first impression of him was this imposing tzaddik, and she never got over it. So it's the same thing with the drasha. It's very important to start off a drasha in a gripping way. And even if that means leaving till the end of the drasha, this week's Kiddush is sponsored by, you know, Mrs. Sally Weinstein in honor of her great niece's graduation from, you know, elementary school. We thank her. Well, you know, she may not be that happy if you leave her till the end, but on the other hand, you've already 90% of the kehila is already in deep slumber. So it's important to start off a drasha properly. You want it to be gripping. I always like to say, if you want to destroy a drasha, you start off. It says in this week's parsha. Come on, that's how you start off a drasha. Rabbi, you had the whole week to come up with a way to grab my attention, and you're going with it says in this week's parsha. So I think it's important to, you know, to get off to a fast start. Like, you know, some teams, if they win the coin toss, they're going to take the ball first because, you know, it's all about momentum. So you want to start off in a gripping way. Like, I can't believe it. Like, huh? Where's he going with this? Why did he start that way? Even a simple narrative in the Chumash, you know, you could say, in this week's parsha, the Jewish people leave Mitzrayim. They were encamped opposite Baal Tzephon. The Egyptians were, or you could start, did you hear what happened? There was this terrible situation. It seemed hopeless, you know, and with all your descriptions, they don't know until, you know, a few sentences in. You're just describing the Jewish people with their backs up against the wall, and the Mitzrayim are coming, and the sea's on the other side. So, you know, I would have to do a better job on that, but something like that is preferable to just like a regular canned type of beginning. So you wanna start in a gripping way. A question always elicits, you know, gets the juices flowing. Especially more of an intellectual type of crowd, you know, they're especially if you present the question in a compelling way, you know, in a way that will bother them. So now they want to hear, what do you have to say? What's the answer to this question? Maybe in one of the other sessions we discussed stories. I think it depends on your crowd. What I've been hearing as of late is that people don't always want to hear stories. They don't want to necessarily. They're not looking for fluff. They want content. They want to be educated. You know, a story that people are sort of scratching the head. Really, that happened? You know, I know when I hear a story, so Rav Miller would say, you know, 90% of Gedolim stories never happened. So, and I add, Rav Miller also never even said that. You know, so a story is good if it didn't have to happen. What I mean by that is, if the story is just bringing out a point and it's not relevant whether it happened or not, it's just an illustration, then great. If the story had to happen because it's only impressive because it's some kind of miraculous tale, and if it didn't happen, it's meaningless, then it's meaningless because, then you have to believe that it happened. Personal stories are good. I'll give you an example. This past Shabbos, it was Parshas Boy. I'm only telling you that not to start my drasha that way, just trying to remember. What is this? Traffic and weather on the 8th? Hayoim atem yoitzim b'chodesh ha'aviv? What is this? A weather report? Take note of the fact that you're leaving the land of Egypt in the spring. Well, why are we getting a weather? And what were the traffic conditions when we were leaving Mitzrayim? What's the significance of that piece of information? So, a similar phenomenon we find that when Yosef Hatzadik was going down to Mitzrayim, so typically the Yishmaelim don't carry good smelling items, and those Yishmaelim were carrying nichot, sari v'loit, and it smelled good. And Rashi points out the reward for tzaddikim that Hashem made sure that it smelled good. So here, I think this is a good technique. See, imagine for a moment those hostages that were being carried on October 7th. We all remember vividly the picture of those hostages being carried away in cars, on motorcycles. Do you think it would matter to them if their hijackers had a good cologne on or whether they didn't smell good? It was irrelevant. Their lives are coming crashing down. So that's a way of taking a simple narrative in the Chumash that maybe they've heard a million times and they're not, doesn't elicit any interest, and you're sort of using a vivid image that's really in their mind's eye right now and bringing it to life. The point is, and then from Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, that it wasn't the smell per se. Yosef Atzadik, his world is coming crashing down. He's in jeopardy of thinking maybe God is abandoning him, maybe Hashem is forsaking him, and the good smell put into a context that Hashem is not forsaking him, Hashem is leading him. Hashem is taking him on the journey. The Rebbe Hashem has a plan for him. So the smell puts into context. So I happened to hear this past week an interview with a soldier who he was describing entering Gaza and smelling the explosion and burning flesh and feeling frightened. And then their tank, all of a sudden, he's enveloped in this otherworldly citrus smell. And they realized that their tank was running over an orchard of lemons, and it was crushing hundreds of lemons, and it produced this citrus smell, and it gave them chizuk, like Yosef Hatzadik going down to Mitzrayim, and that the Rebbe Shem was with them. So that's like a home run type of metaphor, because it's current, it's on people's mind, and it really does bring to life in a very meaningful way what Yosef was going through. And I think it's a very powerful message to people that if you're going through something difficult in life, keep your eyes open sometimes to the small things. It's not that it's going to make things better, but it will put into context that Hashem is with you. So I was happy with that drasha, and I'm my biggest critic. Sometimes you don't have, the material doesn't come as you would like it, but that was a good example. I think.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So let me ask you about some of your influences for speaking. Who you learned from? Were you self-taught? Are there people? I know your grandfather was a Rav. So tell me about where you began your speaking career.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. By nature, I'm very shy. Actually, when I was younger, I was shy and very nervous before I would speak publicly. And it took time to get over that and took time to be comfortable. And I don't think you should ever be completely comfortable. I think it's dangerous to be completely comfortable. I think it's healthy to have some emsa de tzibura, some healthy fear of the public, because then you'll prepare more and can never let your guard down completely. But in terms of influence, you mentioned my grandfather was a Rav. And I don't think I ever had the privilege to hear my grandfather in his heyday, although my father says that he never heard anyone as powerful and dynamic as my grandfather. Definitely my own father was a very big influence in terms of speaking style. My father is not a practicing rabbi, he's a trial attorney, but he's a world-class speaker, and he was a volunteer for Aisha Torah Discovery for many years. That he gave the discovery seminars on college campuses across the country. So that was a very dynamic, passionate, dramatic type of lecture, a type of presentation that really changed people's lives forever. I mean, they had statistics on the discovery program that 90% of people who heard the discovery program who would have considered marrying out of the faith would no longer do so. So it was a very, very powerful type of presentation. So I would say that was a major influence in terms of speaking style, ability, and sort of the image of what a powerful presentation could do to people. The transformative power that a talk could have. Somebody who grew up maybe in a shul, hearing the rabbi get up, with fumbling with a bunch of svarim. The Ramban says that the reason why they Shimon and Levi killed Dinah is because nobody protested, but there's a moral. And then a few minutes later, you don't really ever think, can you actually change people's lives with a drasha? But when you see presentations like that, you realize that when people give you your attention and you respect their time and you do the proper preparation and you deliver it in an effective manner, you could change lives. In terms of Rabbanim, I would say I have a sort of a gamut of Rabbanim who I've admired or tried to learn from their styles, although their styles may be very different. When I was a Bachar, I used to go to Rav Avigdor Miller, who was also a very powerful orator.
These were the Thursday night Shiurim?
So the Thursday night Shiurim, I heard more on tape, but I would go to his shul on Shabbos, and he gave an Ein Yaakov shir before Mincha, similar to the Thursday night shir. So it wasn't a formal pulpit drasha, but it was, I would call it a very formal shir, a transformative type of shir. And Rav Miller said it as it is. He did not shy away. There was no concept of something being politically correct, or Rav Miller, hit the nail on the head. Later on, I started listening to tapes from Rabbi Isaac Bernstein, who was a rabbi in England, and I think originally from Ireland, and he was a very eloquent, dynamic speaker, eminent and powerful darshan. I think I must have picked up a thing or two from him. I'll tell you another thing, and this is something I think I learned from Rabbi Isaac Bernstein. When you're giving a shiur, transitions are key. You don't always want to say, it says in the Maral, it says in the Marsha, it says in the Sfas Emes, it says, I would like to draw your attention to the word. So that's just, he had these really creative or nifty ways of segueing from one source to another. Or that's just one example that comes to mind. I would like to draw your attention to the words of, but that just by way of example, that's just an effective transition from, let's say, one little shtickle, one little piece to another. There must be a number of those types of techniques that I picked up from him, but that's one that comes to mind right now. For a number of years, I used to daven by Rav Noach Isaac Olbaum, also a very dynamic, erudite Talmid Chacham, and he also was a great orator. Whenever he would mention a Rishon or an Achron, he had an amazing way of speaking about the person's biography, his history, where he lived, the Svarim he wrote, maybe a controversy he was involved in. He would bring the people to life. So this is not just the ink that's on the page of the Sefer Chassam Sofer. He would bring the Chassam Sofer to life. So now his words came to life. So that was a technique, something that I learned from the way Rav Olbaum would present. And people enjoy that very much. People appreciate that very much, because everyone's always hearing the Chassam Sofer, Kiva Eger, the Noid Yehuda, the Pnei Yeshua, and you'd be surprised, even Rashi and Tosfos, but nobody knows anything about them. Even Rashi, even people who are yeshiva educated, very little that people know about Rashi. Did you know that Rashi wrote many editions of his commentary, both on Chumash and on Gemara? Well, which edition do we have? Is everything that Rashi says from the same edition? So that's just the basic thing, and you sort of scratch your, hey, how come I never thought of that? Or who exactly was Rabbeinu Tam? Rabbeinu Tam was an actual person. He was a human being. And if you study a number of comments of Rabbeinu Tam, you'll see common threads how Rabbeinu Tam would look at things. So it literally brought these individuals to life. Now, one thing that Rav Obam did, which elicited a curiosity and an interest on my part, and I was able to take it for myself, explore it further, is Rav Obam used to take his kehila, or even personally, and go to the cities where these Gedolim lived and thrived, be it in Germany, in Worms, in Mainz, in Altona, Hamburg, in Frankfurt, or cities in France, or in the Ukraine. And that further brought these individuals to life, because, when you walk the streets and you visit where they're buried and you learn about them, so then there's no comparison between when someone else talks about these individuals or when somebody who actually studied and visited and researched their lives and history speak about them. So that elicited in me a great curiosity. And over the last couple of years, I've had a number of opportunities of visiting these places myself on trips. And I think that really expanded my repertoire and my own ability to bring the ideals and teachings of these Gedolim to life.
Yeah. I remember hearing a story about how you visited France to see where Rashi lived, and how it really broadened your appreciation for Rashi and months leading up to it, and the climax of going there.
Absolutely. And even today, I was there's a lashon in the Shita Mekubetzes. He refers to Rashi as Avihen v'Rabban Shal Yisrael, the father and the Rebbe of the Jewish people. But had I not spent time learning about Rashi, then I just would have read those words, even though I knew they were true. But now, learning and studying about Rashi, I feel in a deeper way that Rashi is our father, Rashi is our Rebbe.
Yeah. I want to know some of your biggest pet peeves when it comes to other speakers. When you see, things that drive you crazy, that you see speakers and public
Okay,
teachers.
you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. It says in the Svarim HaKadoshim. What? Svarim HaKadoshim? You didn't bother checking where? Which Svarim HaKadoshim? You mean you saw it in Mishpacha magazine an hour ago? Those are your Svarim HaKadoshim? No. You heard somebody else say it in the shir. You didn't look it up. Tell me where it is. Otherwise, I don't like that. I don't accept that expression. Svarim HaKadoshim. Okay. Next, regarding this issue, some say that, and others say, "What are you really?" Meaning you have absolutely no idea. You did not value the tzibur. You think we're a bunch of elementary school kids. What do you mean some and others? Who are they? Who are the some and who are the others? Okay, next. The story goes about, it was either the Vilna Gaon or the Chassam Sofer. No, it was probably not about either of them. If you don't know who it was, again, these type of things where things are quoted based on fuzzy, hazy types of memories from things that may never have happened, I reflect on the level of preparation and respect that the speaker has for the material and for the tzibur.
Okay, two more quick questions if you have time, and they are: someone comes to you and says, "I also want to teach Torah publicly. I want to lecture. I want to convey Torah messages." What are the minimum skills such a person should possess?
First of all, I encourage every single Jew. Every Jew is required not just to learn Torah, to teach Torah. It's a commandment in the Torah. It's a basic command. Every Jew's connection to Torah has to be learning and teaching. That being said, not everyone is ready for the major leagues. So what are the basic skills? Let's say, for example, somebody's teaching Mishnah Berurah. Let's pick an example. Somebody says, "I want to give a Mishnah Berurah share." Okay, so let's determine. A, do you know how to read the words? Do you know how to read the words? Could you read Hebrew? Okay, could you read Hebrew? Could you translate the words? Do you understand the halachic process? Do you understand who the Mechaber is, who the Ramah is, who the Magen Avram is, who the Taz is, who the Gra is, who the Mishnah Berurah is. Otherwise, you can't give a Mishnah Berurah share. You're going to read the Dirshu notes. The Dirshu notes are going to say, even though the Chafetz Chaim says it's Asr, but it says in this journal that came out yesterday that Rabbi so-and-so said it's okay. Do you understand there's a difference between the Chafetz Chaim, who wrote a Mishnah Berurah, and a Torah journal that came out that's just quoted in the Dirshu notes? So you have to have a fundamental understanding of the halachic process. And you could be very smart, but if you didn't really go to a yeshiva and spend time absorbing the hierarchy and the value system in halacha, then you're not yet ready to give a shir on that topic. Maybe you could give a shir on Chumash. But even to give a shir on Chumash, if you're gonna read a Chumash and Rashi and then say, I saw in the Parsha sheet on the Bima, who wrote the Parsha sheet? My friend's son, right? And I think there has to be a certain basic understanding of the hierarchy and the process of the subject matter that you're teaching. So on the one hand, you want to give everyone that opportunity, but it's not always amateur hour. As they say, it's not always amateur hour. The same way, well, who could daven for the Amud? Give the guy a chance, give the kid a chance. We have to balance, give the guy a chance, but at whose expense and what type of situation? So I think a loving and caring Rav will try to give a person the right coaching, maybe, but it has to be balanced. In other words, you want to give people a chance, but you also don't want to do a disservice to the audience.
Okay, and the last question that I have is, you teach so many different subjects, and some of them are going to be more interesting, directly relevant to the people that you're teaching, and some of them are going to be very dry, very technical, very esoteric. How do you just barrel through those? Do you try to find some angle with which to engage the audience, your listeners, in those circumstances? What is your approach?
I think you'd be surprised at what has an impact on people. So Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of stuff online, and I meet people, they say, "Oh, Rabbi Glatstein, I listened to your shir." Realize I'm thinking, "Oh, what do you listen to? Like my Wednesday night Parsha shir?" And they say, no, I listen to your Mishnah Berurah share. Mishnah Berurah share. I'm just reading Mishnah Berurah. That's not my big share. So, shlach lachmacha pnei amayim. You never know what influences someone or impacts on someone. And a general rule that's is something that you're excited about. It's likely someone else will be excited about it as well. So, I think it's very much up to the teacher. If this is a subject that excites the Rebbe, then you have a fighting shot that maybe the Talmidim will be excited. If you're not excited about it, then in all likelihood, neither will the audience. I'm very grateful to Rebbeinu Shalom to be in this situation. I think I once had a Rebbe who was a Rosh Hashiva, and we were making a siyum on a Masechta. We were in a restaurant actually. Somebody asked him, what do you do? He said, I'm a Malamed. Which you wouldn't expect to hear from a Rosh Hashiva, that he's a Malamed. But really, that's the most noble occupation. That's the occupation of Hashem. Hashem is Malamed Torah La'ama Yisrael. So, sometimes you have to remind yourself that how fortunate, for those who have the zechus to be in a capacity to teach Torah, to share Torah with Klal Yisrael. It's really a great privilege. And Hashem should give all the aspiring and current Rabbanim the wherewithal and the chizuk to be able to carry out their job ad mei v'esrim shana.
Amen.
You can connect with Rabbi Glatstein at rabbidg.com. where you can subscribe to his newsletter and join his WhatsApp groups for his classes. You've been listening to The Maggid Method, and I'm Daniel Steinberg. There's a secret that great public speakers know. Did you know there's a method for cutting straight through to an audience's heart, grabbing their attention and holding it, and making a memorable impact with your presentation? The best speakers in the world utilize it, and now you can too, every time you get up to speak. Download your free Maggid Method of Public Speaking template at maggidmethod.com, maggidmethod.com. The Maggid Method will teach you how to find your authentic voice, craft meaningful presentations, manage people's attention, and build unbreakable bonds with your audience. Go to maggidmethod.com and download your free copy now.